cin, cout, scanf, printf, with all these different ways to input and output. How do you know what you want to use? Hey, welcome back to C++ Miyoshi. I really want to talk about using what you want to use, using the right tools for inputting and outputting strings. So let's look here at my screen. Here is some code I wrote about using printfs and strings, and also getting data with strings. And I'm just gonna, I wrote this kind of to be not self-aware, but some self-evident code. So it's talks about printing, using printfs. I would use printfs for strings or anything. And essentially you have to make sure you have a placeholder. The %s is a placeholder for the string, and the .c_str, that helps you output that with your printf. So here's an example in the code, or actually in the executing code. I do is make a string, something, and then I print it out using the %s as the placeholder and the str.c_str open close parentheses to output that guy. Now, inputting strings are really interesting because I like to tell my students, or anybody who will listen, that if you want to use what tools are best for you. And in this case, a string might be using the cin. Cins will get anywhere, will get your string up to white space. So it'll get up through a tab, a space, or a new line. And then, of course, you wanted to flush the buffer by using this fseek stdin, comma 0, comma seekend. That actually flushes the buffer to make sure there's no stuff left in the buffer, so that the next thing you input goes directly into what it needs to go into. Okay? But then again, you can use cins, but again, you got to make sure that you don't need any white space. If you do need to get white space of any sort besides a new line, you want to use getline, open parentheses, cin, comma s, and where s is my string, the name of my string, and that's what it is over here. I use two different strings. I have string, and apparently I have an s that I forgot to change, but that's okay. And then if you want to get any white space besides a new line, so if you want to get a space or a tab, you can do that here with this getline cin, comma s. Okay, otherwise, you want to use getline cin, comma s, comma open single quote, whatever you want to have as your delimiter or to end your string, and then close that single quote, and then close parentheses, semicolon. That will actually then get you whatever you have from the start of your string until whatever that delimiter is. Okay? I then have some interaction here with my code. I'll put something in, and it says without white space, but I'm going to show you that I can put in white space here, and we'll see what happens. Notice it'll output it right away, and notice that it only outputs the ABC. That's because my white space ended my string, even though it didn't look like it ended the string until I hit the enter after the F. Okay, so let's do something else. Let's do X, Y, Z, P, D, Q, and now I hit enter. And notice it gets them both. And I could have a tab in there as well. It'll get any kind of white space except for a new line. And then here we'll do any other kind of white space except for a tab. So if I do something like that, I have new lines between the AAA and the BBB and the CCC. Then I have tabs between the, oops, I wasn't supposed to have tabs. I'm supposed to have spaces. It'll probably give me only up to the 1, 2, 3. That's okay. And there it does. It gives me only up to the 1, 2, 3 because that's a tab. I still put other stuff in there, but that was after the tab. The tab was my delimiter, not the comma like I have here. And that's my code. Now, what does that look like in my coding life here? So I have comments. I always like to have comments, not just because I'm a teacher and I want my students to do that, because I like to know what I'm going to do, or what I did several years down the road, or even a couple months down the road, even maybe only a week out down the road. I want to know what I did in the code. But here I have my printfs. Okay, in my main, I have my printfs, and then I have those just tell me what's going on. And then I create this string called s. output a string with placeholder. The %s is the string, or as the placeholder rather, for the string. And the dot C_str open close parentheses, that is, those two together will help me get my string output. And that's what it shows you here. %s as the placeholder for the string. And the s.c_str, that is my string name. And this is called a method that outputs the string as the printf wants me to, as a character array. But you don't need to know that part of it. Okay? Just know that this .c_str, that outputs it in the format that this %s wants it. Okay? And then I have some more stuff here. Notice that if I want to print out a %, I have to do 2% signs. If I want to print out a double quote, I have to use a / double quote. And that's some interesting stuff inside the code that you may not notice, but when it runs, you see those double quotes, and that's how I get it. You see the single %sign, that's how you get it. %sign double %, and a double quote, / double quote. Okay, just like a \n is a new line, \t is a tab, and so forth. All right, so I like to use, again, cin if I need to get anything up to any kind of white space, a space, a tab, or a new line. And then remember, you have to have the pair cin and then also your fseek. And here again is my string called input. If I want to get data in, but I want to have any kind of white space besides a new line, I can just use this getline open parentheses cin comma input, and that works. I don't have to, notice how I don't have to have the fseek here. It clears the buffer itself with the getline. And the last thing is this getline cin comma input, or this is my string again, comma \t in single quotes. Whatever I have in this \t, if it's a single quote, if it's a space, if it's a tab, it's a new line. Again, I always use a \t instead of an actual tab in there. If it's a comma, a period, whatever thing you want it to be. I could even end on a T or a Q or some letter. That's where it will stop. And then that will be whatever was before that will be in your string when you're done. So if I change this to put I don't know, let's put a semicolon there. Now if I run this code again, the last one, when I input it, let's just put this in here, and I'll just do oh, I forgot to put something after the tab, but that's okay. This one, instead of a tab, I put a semicolon. So if I did AB, ASB, whatever, tab, and a space, and then an enter, and then I put in a semicolon. Now, a semicolon, then an enter, you see that my ASB is there and the UQU is there. Those have new lines between them. ASDF, that has a new line there between there as well. I have a tab and a space there, and then my semicolon. And that, oh, there's a new line there, and then the semicolon. So whatever, like I said, whatever I used here in the single quote, that's my delimiter. That's the end of my string. Of course, you have to hit enter still to register it, but that is how you do that. So use the tools that you have available to you. And if you like to use cins and you don't need any white space, use cins to get your strings in. If you need to get some white space, tab, space, then you can go ahead and use getline cin comma input, or whatever your string name is. That will get data into your string up to a new line. And if you need to get it up to something else, whatever your delimiter is, that's this getline cin comma input comma single quote. Whatever's in that single quote, semicolon in this case, that will be your delimiter. That will be what ends the string. Of course, after you hit the enter as well. So I'd have to hit the semicolon, then the enter, then my string would get registered. So use the tools that you have available to you and to get the job done. Remember, strings are, we think of them as primitive data types, but they're really not, and that's why we have to use this .c_str when we use printfs. By the way, I didn't have any couts in here, but if you use the cout, you can just output any of these strings directly without having to have any other fun stuff on them like this C_string. So that is how to get input and output of strings, and hopefully that helps you out a little bit. And again, use your tools that you have in your toolbox and use them whichever way you need to. You might have to change your includes up here depending on what you use, but if you keep using this, obviously these will work for what I have here. So again, thank you for tuning in for C++ with Miyoshi, and we'll see you next time.